Hello, it's Willie from the Ozarks and ready for our November 21st lesson in A Course in Miracles Workbook for Students. From the original edition, lesson 325, All things I think I see reflect ideas. All things I think I see reflect ideas. Remember, this is a world of illusions, a world of projection. The thoughts we hold in our mind are what we see. And this is what is so important for us to learn to recognize. If you don't like the world you're living in, well, then learn to think a different thought so that a new world can come up. Those thoughts of fear produce a world of conflict and, to prove that there's a fearful world you're living in. Well, the reverse of that's also true. A pleasant world where you're not a victim, where God has everything under control and that you're abiding in His perfect care. You're like a child playing in the backyard where your parents are watching you through the window. They know you're safe. Well, this is the way we are. And we can start thinking that way, well, then we can begin to see that kind of a world. All things I think I see reflect ideas. This is why it's so important that we take those daily longer morning and evening practice periods where we quietly stay for a few minutes or however long that Spirit tells you to stay. I usually consider 15 minutes a minimum myself. And oftentimes that's all I ever set my clock for if I'm busy doing other things. But I at least set it for a few minutes or at least sit still and quiet until you feel like you've been filled with peace. All right? And then during the day, take those hourly remembrances. All things I think I see reflect ideas. And look at what ideas you're seeing during the day. And say, is this really the world I want to see? All things I think I see reflect ideas. This is salvation's keynote. This is salvation's keynote. What I see reflects a process in my mind which starts with my idea of what I want. From there, the mind makes up an image of the thing the mind desires, judges valuable, and therefore seeks to find. These images are then projected outward, looked upon, esteemed as real, and guarded as one's own. From insane wishes comes an insane world. From judgment comes a world condemned, and from forgiving thoughts, a gentle world comes forth, with mercy for the Holy Son of God, to offer him a kindly home where he can rest a while before he journeys on, and helps his brothers walk ahead with him and find the way to heaven and to God. He always brings that back to the realization that it's with our brothers that we're going to make this journey. You know, the salvation of the world is uppermost in God's mind. He wants us to realize that every connection with another brother or sister is a connection with God. So that last sentence, from forgiveness, gentle thoughts, from forgiving thoughts a gentle world comes forth, with mercy for the Holy Son of God, to offer him a kindly home where he can rest a while before he journeys on, and helps his brothers walk ahead with him and find the way to heaven and to God. And the prayer says, Our Father, your ideas reflect the truth, and mine apart from yours but make up dreams. Let me behold what only yours reflect, for yours and yours alone establish truth. Okay, all things I think I see reflect ideas. Let's go take a look now at our text reading, and we're ready in chapter 9. We are ready for section 6, Salvation and God's Will. This is all under the chapter, The Correction of Error. So, salvation and God's will. Before I read that, I wanted to read you one more broccoli that I'm planning on planting. And as you can see, our sprouts have not yet come forth. We did these on the 16th. Of course, I'm a day before you all. I marked it the 16th. Anyway, today's the 21st, but I think that this 4 days for these so far is what it's really been. Okay, Waltham 29 is another broccoli that I hope to plant this next spring. And you'll get these things started early in the spring because they can withhold some frost. So you don't have to wait till your frost date. And you could grow them 6 or 8 weeks in the house in a south window. So plant them maybe sometime in February or first part of February even. And then you've got February and March, put them out early March, and they'll, or for sure by April. And that's what I would suggest anyway. Waltham 29 out of this is again out of the Baker's Creek catalog. It's a standard type, produces 4 to 8 inch green heads that are nicely flavored. Compact plants also produce some side shoots. It doesn't sound like it produces quite as many as the what was that other variety that made a whole lot of side shoots? It was the Goliath broccoli. Sends plenty of side shoots off after the main head is harvested. That's the Goliath. Well, this Waltham 29 still makes some. And at some point you'll probably just pull your plant out and compost it because it just won't make enough heads to make it worthwhile. And by that time you're early in the year and you can still plant your warm weather plants where your broccoli's growing. And then you can do your broccoli again in the fall. Have some started ready to put out in the fall or start it directly in the garden. Compact plants also produce some side shoots. Introduced in 1954, a favorite here at the farm. Okay, well, their farm there at Baker's Creek. They say that's a favorite of theirs. All right, let's take a look at salvation and God's will. Let's make sure that's where we're at. Yes, we did 20 yesterday, right? Yeah, salvation and God's will. God's will is your salvation. Would He not have given you the means to find it? If He wills you to have it, He must have made it possible and very easy to obtain. That should bring you joy to know that salvation's easy to obtain. Your brothers are everywhere. You do not have to seek far for salvation. Each exchange that you have with a brother is an exchange with God. And that brings you salvation, and it's easy to obtain. See the good, see God, see the love, see the joy, feel the peace. Every minute and every second gives you a chance to save yourself. Do not lose these chances. What he says, every minute and every second gives you a chance to save yourself. Do not lose these chances, not because they will not return, but because delay of joy is needless. God wills you perfect happiness now. It is possible that this is not, is it possible that this is not also your will? And is it possible that this is not also the will of your brothers? All right, so every time you think of someone else, you want to think of them in good thoughts. That's why every minute and every second is another chance at salvation, another chance to be happy. 39. Consider then that in this joint will you all are united, and in this only. Consider then that in this joint will you are all united, and in this only. This united will, we're all one in God. There will be disagreement on anything else, but not on this. This then is where peace abides, and you abide in peace when you so decide. And you abide in peace when you so decide. Are you going to be at peace with your brothers and sisters that are all giving you another chance at salvation, and with every thought, you get to think a good thought about them. And this is where peace is, because we're all connected. This then is where peace abides, and you abide in peace when you so decide. Yet you cannot abide in peace unless you accept the atonement, because the atonement is the way to peace. And what's the atonement? The interlocking chain of forgiveness, that when it's complete, it's called the atonement. When you don't let anything stand in the way of seeing God in your brother and sister, to feel the peace and the joy in the relationship, being glad that you're with God, with every thought of every brother, with every personal contact, with every even just the thought of your brother or sister. The reason is very simple. Okay, let's back up. You abide in peace when you so decide, yet you cannot abide in peace unless you accept the atonement, because the atonement is the way to peace. The reason is very simple and so obvious that it is often overlooked. That is because the ego is afraid of the obvious, since obviousness is the essential characteristic of reality. Yet you cannot overlook it unless you are not looking. Obviousness is the essential characteristic of reality. 40. It is perfectly obvious that if the Holy Spirit looks with love on all he perceives, he looks with love on you. His evaluation of you is based on his knowledge of what you are, and so he evaluates you truly. And this evaluation must be in your mind because he is. The ego is also in your mind because you have accepted it there. Its evaluation of you, however, is the exact opposite of the Holy Spirit's, because the ego does not love you. It is unaware of what you are and wholly mistrustful of everything it perceives, because its own perceptions are so shifting. The ego is therefore capable of suspiciousness at best and viciousness at worst. Whoa, there's the range. The ego is therefore capable of suspiciousness at best and viciousness at worst. That is its range. It cannot exceed it because of its uncertainty, and it can never go beyond it because it never can be certain. So there's the range of the ego, from suspiciousness to viciousness. And it can't go beyond it because it can never be certain. 41. You then have two conflicting evaluations of yourself in your minds, and they cannot both be true. And what are those two? The ego's or the Holy Spirit's evaluation. And we clearly want the Holy Spirit's evaluation because it's the one that speaks for joy. It's the only one that's valuable. It's the only one that's real. You then have two conflicting evaluations of yourself in your minds, and they cannot both be true. You do not yet realize how completely different these evaluations are because you do not understand how lofty the Holy Spirit's perception of you really is. He is not... Okay, catch that. Let me read it again. You do not yet realize how completely different these evaluations are because you do not understand how lofty the Holy Spirit's perception of you really is. He's not deceived by anything you do because he never forgets what you are. The ego is deceived by everything you do, even when you respond to the Holy Spirit, because at such times its confusion increases. The ego is therefore particularly likely to attack you when you react lovingly, because it has evaluated you as unloving, and you're going against its judgment. Okay, let's see. Let's read that again. Make sure you got that. The ego is deceived by everything you do, even when you respond to the Holy Spirit, because as such, its confusion increases. The ego is therefore particularly likely to attack you when you react lovingly, because it has evaluated you as unloving, and you are going against its judgment. 42. The ego will begin to attack your motives as soon as you become clearly out of accord with its perception of you. This is when it will shift abruptly from suspiciousness to viciousness, since its uncertainty is increased. Yet it is surely pointless to attack in return. What can this mean except that you are agreeing with the ego's evaluation of what you are? If you are willing to see yourself as unloving, you will not be happy. Okay? We want to see ourselves as loving because that's our true identity, and that's what makes us happy, or that's what is in harmony with our happiness, might be the better way to say that. If you are willing to see yourself as unloving, you will not be happy. Would you look to the ego to help you escape from a sense of inadequacy it has produced and must maintain for its existence? Can you escape from its evaluation of you by using its methods for keeping this picture intact? And I think we better stop there for today. We'll be ready for 43 tomorrow. All right, let's take a look. And isn't that interesting? The range of the ego is from suspiciousness. I think that, seeing something negative. And then viciousness, seeing something so negative that you've got to defend yourself against it. Anyway, that's the characteristic response of the ego. All right, all things I think I see reflect ideas. We're reading What is Creation? Creation is the sum of all God's thoughts in number infinite and everywhere without all limits. Only love creates and only like itself. There was no time when all that it created was not there, nor will there be a time when anything that it created suffers any change. Forever and forever are God's thoughts exactly as they were and as they are, unchanged through time and after time is done. God's thoughts are given all the power that their own Creator has, for He would add to love by its extension. Thus His Son shares in creation and must therefore share in power to create. What God has willed to be forever one will still be one when time is over, and will not be changed throughout the course of time, remaining as it was before the thought of time began. Creation is the opposite of all illusions, for creation is the truth. Creation is the Holy Son of God, for in creation is His will complete in every aspect, making every part container of the whole. Its oneness is forever guaranteed and inviolate, forever held within His holy will beyond all possibility of harm, of separation, imperfection, and of any spot upon its sinlessness. We are creation, we the sons of God. We seem to be discreet and unaware of our eternal unity with Him. Yet back of all our doubts, past all our fears, there still is certainty. For love remains with all its thoughts, its sureness being theirs. God's memory is in our holy minds, which know their oneness and their unity with their Creator. Let our function be only to let this memory return. Let this function be only to let this memory return. Only to let God's will be done on earth, only to be restored to sanity, and to be but as God created us. Our Father calls to us. We hear His voice, and we forgive creation in the name of its Creator, holiness itself, whose holiness His own creation shares, whose holiness is still a part of us. What is creation? All things I think I see reflect ideas. This is salvation's keynote. All things I think I see reflect ideas. This is salvation's keynote. What I see reflects a process in my mind, which starts with my idea of what I want. From there, the mind makes up an image of the thing the mind desires, judges valuable, and therefore seeks to find. These images are then projected outward, looked upon, esteemed as real, and guarded as one's own. From insane wishes comes an insane world. From judgment comes a world condemned. And from forgiving thoughts, a gentle world comes forth, with mercy for the Holy Son of God, to offer him a kindly home, where he can rest a while before he journeys on, and helps his brothers walk ahead with him, and find the way to heaven and to God. Our Father, your ideas reflect the truth, and mine apart from yours, but make up dreams. Let me behold what only yours reflect, for yours and yours alone establish truth. So what we value is what we're going to see. Jesus taught us that 2,000 years ago. Out of the treasures of the heart comes forth all the good and the bad. So what you value, what you treasure, is what you're going to see. So learn to treasure your peace of mind and the joy of your connection with all your brothers and sisters. All things I think I see reflect ideas.